Hello, openCV developers. Wanted to show you something that you're probably not aware of. You know, when you think of building an application using openCV, you immediately think of Qt, and you think of Python and maybe IntelliJ or something. But you really don't know that there are other products out there that can actually let you do everything you want within an IDE that's powerful enough to let you save it to a database, display it in a web application, display it in a desktop application, all really in a handful of you know lines to let you show your data. So let me give you a quick example. I'm going to take the OpenCV example of thresholding, and let me move that over. And this is you could find this in the OpenCV documentation. And basically what it does, it lets you look at the 5 different type of thresholdings and go back and forth with some sliders to allow you to get the different values of the thresholding. And as everybody's aware, thresholding is really, moving background from foreground or foreground from background, you know, in a single color channel. Well, and this is really Qt. This is pretty straightforward. Well, what if you wanted to take a snapshot of that, save that threshold value to a database, put it into a table, and use it later? It sounds pretty difficult. Well, I'm going to show you a very easy way to do that using a product called Lianja. I'm going to bring that up now. So here's an application I put together using Leandra, and if you'll see, it's the same type of thresholding, that we had before using Qt. Same exact thing. Um, but if you notice, this is actually in my application, not on a floating window by itself. This is much more useful. So I'm going to walk with you from scratch how to build the application and how to display the information, save it at a certain point in time, and then have it for future use. All right, so we're gonna start over from scratch. First thing we're going to do is go to the home page of Leandra, and we're going to create a new project. And we're going to call it Lianja CV. Now, let's create a database for this application. We could do this a lot of different ways. We can go to the console and type it out. We can connect to a third party, to SQL Server or Oracle, but we're going to use Leandra's built-in database, which is very fast and very powerful. Um, Now I could, like I said, I can go to the console and type in create table, create database, but we'll just do it through the GUI for now. We'll go to data, go to database. Sorry, I'm in the wrong trigger. We'll go to database and we'll click on new database and we'll call it um, how about CVDB. All right. And we'll add a table. There are a lot of different types you can add. We're just going to add a blank table and we're going to call it, I don't know, how about table underscore CV. All right, we're going to create that table. Now we're going to add some fields. We'll take a snapshot or a runtime, and we'll make that a date time field. Runtime. All right, we'll create another field, and we'll call that T-type for threshold type. That's just the caption of it. We'll make it character 20, even though it's really an int, but we'll just make it character 20 for now. And we'll add T-value. And we'll also make that 20. Okay, so we've got our table. We've got our database and we've got our table. Let's go back to our project. So we need to add applications to our project. So we're going to create a new app. And here comes our app wizard. What type of app do you want to build? Well, it's going to be desktop, web, tablet, and phone. Why not? And we'll call it app CV. I'm being very clever today. Now we're going to be using Python for this one. And the database, we'll call it CVDB. All right, so that's going to set up with our entire environment. Very cool. This is the Lianja interface. The way Lianja is built, it's built pages, sections, items. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a section to this page. And this section is going to be a custom section. So I go to section, I'm sorry, canvas section. We're going to call this a canvas section. Canvas is drag and drop. You just put whatever you want on there. So let's put an image first of all. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rip this off, make it a little easier. We're going to use an image. Okay. We're going to use a slider for the type. We're going to kind of look just like the C++ application. We're going to use another slider. And we might as well put a button on there just to load the image, just so you can see how it works. I could load the image on the init, or there's a lot of different ways I could load the image, but we might as well use a button so we get to see how we go through Lianja. Now, I'm going to save the application here. A couple things I'm going to do. I'm going to make some useful names. For example, this slider here, I'll take both these sliders, and I'm just going to align them, align left edges. Okay, this first slider, we'll call it slider T-type. Slider type. Let's call it slider type. We'll call this one slider value. Might as well call our image something. We'll call it image 1. We don't have to give a name to the push button. We're not going to reference it. All right, we'll save the application. Now, if I come over here to pages, I could see, oops. Well, actually, let me refresh my application. To refresh the application, if I go back to pages, I'll see my section listed, and I'll see my elements that are listed. The image, the slider, the button just called field 4. You know what? You might as well give it a better name than that. We'll call it button 1. Great. Save that. All right, might as well reload it. Not that you have to so many times. Okay, a couple things. Let's talk about how Leandra works. The document object model that you have in JavaScript, you have the same type of thing, and here it's called the Lianja model. So it's the Lianja object model, and again, we have pages, we have sections, and we have our items over here. So we can refer to this as page 1, section 1, image 1. Now, we called it image. We didn't call it image 1. Image 1. Save. Okay. So let's go into here. Let's change this button a little bit. Let's call this load image, and as you can see, everything in Leandra happens real time. So we're going to call that load image, and we're going to go to the click event of that button. And here, all we're going to do is going to open up that same file that we had before. So we're going to use the Lianja dot get, and we're going to say it's page 1 dot section 1 dot image 1 dot picture, and I just have that on my local drive here. See images hp png. I'm going to save that. So when I head and click on load image, it's going to put the image that we had right in there. We'll stretch that a little bit. All right, very straightforward. We reference the object and we put it in there. All right, so let's get to our sliders now. One thing before we do that, by the way, there's a lot of ways to get to the code. You can click on the object, go down to the interactive delegates. You can click on this little keyboard over here, it brings you to the code. You can click on to just code view. There's a lot of different ways that we can get to our code. couple things I want to do straight off the bat, right? I need to import CV2 and import NumPy. All right, save that. All right, so those are in there. Now for my first slider, which is the type, let's change that caption. We'll call it threshold type. And we know that there are only 5 threshold types. So let's go to minimum and maximum values. Minimum value is going to be 1. The maximum value is going to be 5. And let's change the tick interval to 1. We'll save that. Right, so we know, now move along, that's our tick interval. Okay. Next slider. Next slider, we'll call that type slider. Not type, value slider. Threshold value. Might as well call it threshold value. Now let's go to minimum max value here is going to be 1 to 255. I guess we can keep the tick interval at 10. Let's hide the side banner for a little bit so we have more room. All right. Okay, so now we have our sliders. Let's save that. All right. We don't need to see the numbers on top of them. It's not that important, but you can make this horizontal, you can make it vertical. Doesn't really matter. Now let's put some code behind there. Okay. Let's click on the slider. And let's go to the interactive change event. Let's put some code in here. Okay, here's our interactive change event. So we're going to say, let's read that in as grayscale. Right, so the source is going to be the read as grayscale. Okay, we're going to need to get the value. So we're going to threshold equals Lianja dot get. We'll get the name of the value. Page 1 dot section 1 dot, what do we call that again? T slider. We called it slider value. Slider value dot value. All right, so now we have the threshold. So let's just test this out for a second. Let me just get this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in. All right, if the threshold of this is the type. This is slider type. Slider type. So if the value of slider type equals 1, then we're going to use thresh binary, and then let's write it out. We're going to write that out temp, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set that image to that temp threshold value. Pretty straightforward. Okay, let's just check it out real quick, see if that's working. So if I move it over here, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to move the value to the middle and move it back to 1. Cool. All right, so now we know that the code's being picked up. Let's get it working in earnest. Let's go back to the code. So I just pasted this in. So now we have, and by the way, we could do it, probably a much better way. We could do within a loop or send a value. Right now, I'm just doing 5 if statements just to illustrate a point, keep it nice and simple. So let's go back here. So if you move these along, oh, I gotta change it. All right, Python error here. It's only gonna run, okay, now let's go back, have a quick look. Okay, that looks right. And if we change that threshold, that looks right too. Okay, so let's wire the whole thing up together so all the code works together. Let's just do, let's see, there's nothing in here. It's very simple. Let's go here. Let's go to interactive change. Where's my delegates? Interactive change right there. And all we're going to do is we're going to call this because right because of the value. Let's go save that. We'll go back, and as we move that, the threshold changes. So in really very short period of time, we now have the same functionality as we had in C++ with just a handful of lines. So let's take it to the next step. Let's save it. Let's save this to a database. Actually, you know what? We're going to do that in the next video. This is the first video. I'm going to put a next video where we save it to the database and display it. All right. Thanks for watching. Herb.